that designated groups, which are black women, white women, colored people, black men, and Indians, are not spectators in their own country. And this was not done because the government was playing dice and hoping that it's either a pop or a crap. Government had done some research that indicated that at the beginning of the democracy of this country, the blacks, Indians, and colored professionals were almost non-existent. And government said that must change. Actually, the numbers that we are reading to us, you'll see that if you look at the number of white academics, in some institutions are about 90%, 80%. And to date, some of those institutions have not transformed. I'll make an example about Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch has not transformed in terms of the look and feel, the face of that institution is still predominantly white male dominated, not even white female, white male dominated. Despite the investment that government would have put. And that also translates to even the face of students there. It is possibly the only institution that has, Honorable Soldiers, I can't remember the numbers now, but more than 50% of the student populace there. I think they were here in March or April or May, I can't remember now. But it's possibly the only institution that is still have the number of students at that institution, which does not tie with the population of the Western Cape as they're here, the population of the country. There's a skewed number of things. And we have it's a problem of transformation. Dr. Lewin, or Prof. Lewin. It's a problem of this thing. Of course, today, just to respond to you when you said you are not sure if today would have proven any illegality on the appointment of foreign nationals. This was not what it was about. But maybe we must help you and say that maybe we must resolve that we must ask the SIU to help us with that part. The legality of the appointments of these people, meaning that firstly they must look at the documents that, or maybe the advert itself, on the terms of reference. Let's look at we can say maybe in the past 7 years, we don't have a problem. We can say, go back 2019 and get the adverts of all foreign nationals that were appointed from 2019. We can say 1 January 2019 to prove. I agree, we are saying we can't prove the legality of this thing, but to prove it. And by the way, it will be easier to prove because the Employment Service Act says, firstly, if the person is not a South African, and we know what is the definition of a South African, Home Affairs is here, can help us on what is the definition of a South African. If a person is not a South African, they cannot be given first preference, meaning when you advertise, and if you can't find anybody within the confines of the country for that particular position, you can then go and re-advertise. And on second chance, you can then consider foreign nationals. I can tell you now for free leave 2019, the adverts that came out this year alone were on first attempt, foreign nationals that had applied and were considered. If you want us to prove the what is the legality or illegality of those appointments, we can show it to you. And I don't appreciate us coming and being defensive for no reason. We're not attacking you, DG. You've got absolutely no business defending wrong things that are happening at universities. But you can't come to us here and tell us that you have not proven the legality or illegality of the appointments. That was not a terms of reference here today. But if you want us to do that part, and I'm lobbying you members, that we resolve, that we will write to we'll follow the right process, which is to write to the Speaker, to write to the President, to lobby the President to give us a proclamation that specifically deals with the appointment of foreign nationals, the whole process, from January 1, 2019 until, what is the date today? 26 August 2026. And we'll prove to you the legality. Because I don't understand why do you want to defend something as basic and as glaring as this one. We know these things. We know. So that's the first point that I thought I must respond to. The department comes here, what slide was it? And maybe before. I'm going to give you members, I just wanted to clarify. So in your way forward slide, what slide? Slide 9. You say to us, there's database that already exists, like the HEMIS, employment equity, and relevant information. Who is this HEMIS? Maybe take us through. Who is this HEMIS? Who puts information into this HEMIS, and how do you access that data? And I hope we don't get a lecture, but I'm just asking a deliberate question. Who is this HEMIS? Diet.
Thank you, Chair. HEMIS is the Higher Education Management Information System. It is used for the collecting data from institutions. The institutions provide the data to the department on an annual basis. The data is audited. It is used as a basis to fund institutions.
So with HEMIS, you can access all information of universities.
Not all information. It's got standardized reporting. So, for example, in this area, the thing that we've been saying all along is one of the weaknesses of the HEMIS data is that it doesn't distinguish between permanent residents. And so it'll say foreign citizen, but it won't say that they're permanent residents or not.
But it does not have recruitment data.
Exactly, no. And it's not a live data set, Chair. Yeah.
So why is it included in this slide of way forward that we must look at it as a reliable data supplier for us to look at what is the purpose of today's meeting? Why would you then include it into being a reliable database of information for us to resolve the problems that we're talking about today? Why is it included here?
Because, Chair, it does provide staffing information, and it provides equity information on staffing, and it provides citizenship information. But as we've shown, citizenship information is not enough to give us the level of detail required in order to know what is going on in the system. And so we feel that there may well be improvements that need to take place. And given the legislative relationship governing our relationship with universities, this is something that would require discussions, IT governance, and proper policy frameworks to be in place.
Okay. For me, it doesn't make sense. And you include there, you say we must look at that before introducing new reporting requirements. as if that reporting requirement resolves today's question, which we are talking about. DG, the entire presentation from the department was just too defensive unnecessary. You are too defensive, and I don't think it's helping us. You go and tell us that you can only get 14% of recruitment data from institutions. That can't be. With the powers vested in yourself as a department to hold these universities accountable, and you tell us that you can only get recruitment data for 14%, and even the contract type, you don't know whether they're permanent or it can be. These people they are on the system. So the department attitude towards universities of being too lenient and too soft to people who are supposed to report to them creates a big problem for us. I know, DG, that you, just like me, you come from the township. In my township where I come from, there's a dog. When we were growing up, different types of dogs. We'd have both sporty, no. There's a dog where I come from. I don't know whether it existed or not, but the principle existed that this dog called Stokoloko. So Stokoloko in Zulu bar injengenamazinyo. So it's a dog that can't bite, even if it tries to bite, because it does not have teeth. No one is afraid of it. Now the department is behaving like Stokoloko. You have removed your own teeth to institutions. And even if you try and bite them tomorrow, they are not afraid because you have removed your own teeth. So you are going to bite them with gums. And no one is afraid to be bitten by gums. And that is the problem. Because if every chance you get, when we ask legitimate questions about the conduct of our institutions, it is you in the department who go all out to defend them. So now, when we are not there in those rooms where you meet them, we lose confidence that we are going to hold them accountable. Because you come to us, you say, on slide 9, slide, 7, recruitment data, we can only get 14%. How is that possible? You don't have corporate in this institution. You've got corporate services at these institutions. They are refusing to give you this data intentionally. And that is why I'm lobbying these members that we must resolve here, that we must write to the Speaker for the Speaker to lobby the President on a special proclamation to look at a 7-year period of the recruitment of foreign nationals in our institutions. And SIU, when that gets, let's finish it fast. Let's go there. If they are refusing to give us that data, there are mechanisms. You refer to NPA for whatever the case may be, for refusal to give information or to provide information, but it can be. Because I can tell you, and I'm going to ask Labour, because I can't ask you guys this question, you're going to defend. I'm going to ask Labour and Home Affairs. They've spoken about the problem of, or the program called postdocs. I can tell you now, DG, that if you go to these institutions, the people who are lecturing there are postdocs. So when a post gets, vacant, a lecturing post gets vacant, the people who are then called to do the lecturing, most of them are postdocs. And I want you to look at how many, and that's what I'm going to ask them, to look at, do they know, out of the numbers provided, how many of, because they are here on the visas to be postdocs, on research thing, but they are now lecturing. They are earning. If you don't believe me, when you go there and say, give me your account. You'll see the institution pays them for lecturing, which is against the visa that they've received. And I'm telling you, this is what I'm not asking you, I know for a fact. I can tell you institutions that are doing it today. So the department come here, no, hey, no, please. That's not going to help us. We're weakening the department, I don't know to what end. And we're not against universities. Ours is to strengthen the PSET system. But it must not be for the benefit of this or against this one. It must be a fair process that we want to see. We're not against anybody. We can't be against anybody. Director General, members, I want to give you 15 minutes each. We'll start with you, Dr. Christians. I'll come to you, Dr. Honorable Ngubane. Hey, you know, I got we were talking about professors, so I now think everybody's a doctor now. You see, you might start opening cases that we're giving each other accolades we don't have. An honorable souls, I'll end with you. So, Dr. Christians, your 15 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to start off quickly with the Department of Labour's presentation, basically about the DHET's employment equity data as well. So, and I think it's important to start here, and then I'll continue to the SIU findings, which I also think is very important. So, it does show a worrying trend or persistent weakness in our data that, you know, especially coloured South Africans at senior and top management level, that there is definitely a gap there. And I think just firstly, I just want to ask the department before I get into the depth of it, has DHET understood or recognized or even gone into an in-depth study as to why this is occurring at our higher education institutions?
Why, which is occurring, the underrepresentation of Black, African and coloured particularly? Yes, I mean, we've got loads and loads of investigations that talk to this. The most recent one was the MTT that came out, I think it was in 2023, a report on the challenge of attracting and retaining Black academics in the university sector. And there are numerous problems around this, you know, from recruitment practices, but some of the more difficult ones relate to institutional cultures. Some of the discussions that you have had here. And maybe also to say, Honourable Christians, that this goes deeply to the basic education sector as well. This is something that yourself and Honourable Sauls have also spoken to. There's a participation rate measure by UNESCO of who participates in the higher education system, and it's a measure, it's an international measure of the proportion of young people in a particular age group that are in higher education. And in South Africa, the proportion of white and Indian students who participate as students in higher education is far higher than the participation of African and coloured students. And this is reported through our own data every year. So yes, this is something we watch closely. There's also another thing to say that in the funding framework, there is, as part of the funding framework, there's a recognition that universities that have higher numbers of students that are in designated, that are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, that we also recognize that in the funding framework.
Thank you for that answer. And I think, you know, although it provides some clarity, I'm just struggling to understand or to recognize where it comes from, because South Africa spends billions of rands on the exact thing to give our underrepresented people access to higher education. We have NSFAS plowing millions of rands into our younger people, both colored and black. But we don't see that kind of progression in our higher education institutions. So millions is invested. So where are these people then that we are investing money in? Are they, has the study found that they are leaving the country, or are they disappearing into other avenues, or are they not interested in higher education? I'm trying to understand that.
So, no, I think that graduates are being employed. Graduate unemployment is about 11%. So those who go to university, because we're such an unequal society, are more likely to go to get jobs. But graduate unemployment in 2008 was 6%. So it has grown, and the state of our economy does contribute to that. Out of 100, I don't know if this will help to answer, but out of 100 young people that go to school, only 6 of them will graduate with a higher education qualification. And at every level of the pipeline, students drop out. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but if you look at the statistics, they're still shocking. The inequities that are entrenched in our society from apartheid are still very much affect who goes to university. So as much as NSFAS supports 65% of undergraduate students who come from poor and working class backgrounds, not all poor and working class students make it to university because of the history of our education system and because we need to provide more PSET opportunities for young people. I don't know if that is a helpful answer.
I think we understand. It doesn't clarify the picture that we're seeing currently. Because if you look at a university like Sol Plaatje University, for example, Sol Plaatje University is the only university in a predominantly colored and black province. It is a new university, substantially colored population. Yet the employment equity data continues to show us a different picture. And if you look at the academic streams that the Sol Plaatje University offers, which is, for example, ICT and some of the sciences that they offer there, surely if they are producing so many graduates in a predominantly colored and black province, we must be seeing a progression of those very same people into those academic streams in top management, senior management, well, even a newer university, maybe even lower level lecturing. But we're not seeing that. So again, has DHET actually investigated whether we are failing to build that particular pipeline to ensure that we don't use that cohort of students coming through?
Thank you. Yes, we have. I think there are many explanations for that, and I'm not saying that that we are doing enough. For one thing for sure that I should also mention is that postgraduate funding is a scarce resource. So people often graduate from university and go and have to work because they have loans to pay back or they have family responsibilities. They're the first generation to go to university. Many young people are not able to study postgraduates, which means that there are young people who may qualify to go into academic positions and don't get in because they don't have access to postgraduate study. That's one. The other thing is that, postgraduate study takes a long time. It does take a long time to develop, to become an academic because you have to study all the way up to PhD. You pretty much can't get in many universities now, you can't get an academic position without a PhD. And that takes a long time to study and get to, and it takes a lot of money. And if you come from a poor background and you don't have funding, it's very difficult. So I think those are some of the issues but that we need to address. And we are addressing them, but clearly we're not doing it enough and fast enough. But that's why I think the the picture is changing. I think if you look at the last 18 years, it's changed dramatically. It's just not where we would want to be as a country. Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I would also in the same vein say then, you know, that access or the progression is then failing us, or the pipeline is failing us because it's not happening quickly enough for us to see that transition, you know, with recruitment, etc. More importantly, I think, because we now know, as you've said, that in order to be employed at a higher education institution, you need a postgraduate qualification. So, and also you need the necessary funding. So in terms of that, has DHET thought in terms of 5 to 10 years' time, what is then being done to change that picture?
Thanks, Honourable Christians. So from DHET's side, our current focus is on developing a more sustainable student financial aid model that would allow us to use the financial aid that we do have access to, which is, as you know, is considerable billions, to be able to support these things. At the moment, postgraduate funding is provided through the NRF, the National Research Foundation, which is under DSCI, but the NRF only supports way less than 10% of postgraduates. Universities themselves invest quite a lot of funding in postgraduate fees and supporting postgraduate students. So I think that we need to look, as part of a comprehensive student financial aid model, we need to look at what we can do to support more, greater access to postgraduate students. And I think we need to try and increase the amount that we invest in the programs like NGAP, like NESP, like the USDP, because they are really small numbers if you look at the numbers of, we support across the system, but and the NGAP probably has the most, but we're still not supporting enough numbers to get those students in. So I think if we can also increase those programs, of course the funding is a problem, but if we could, it would certainly help.
Just lastly, with regard to the Saul Plaatje University, I would really request that DHET does an urgent intervention, or at least an investigation into the kind of, lecturer they are recruiting there. Because, as I've said before, when you look at their programs, it's ICT-oriented, it's science-oriented. I mean, in a province like the Northern Cape, you would think they need to also branch out to, something more to match the mining industry and so on. So I still fail to understand the high level of foreign individuals that's coming in. To teach, we should have those available in South Africa. And while I have, I understand the importance of getting in academics from other countries, I think it's very important to benchmark from foreign countries. But when it comes to a scarce or critical skill, we know that, a foreign academic is appointed in terms of a scarce skill, and that's where I fail to understand the Saul Plaatje issue. And therefore, I'm requesting an urgent investigation into the matter at the Saul Plaatje University. And then also, with regards to the progression or the skills transfer, when those foreign academics come in, and I know it's a question we've asked multiple times, but have you measured whether or not, when a scarce skill foreign national comes in, whether that skill is actually transferred to South African individuals or South African academics, and at what rate? Have we measured it? And if we have measured it, can you give us a little bit more detail on that?
Honourable Christians, we haven't. I think I gave the same answer the last time, but we haven't measured it. I think universities, some of them may measure it, and we need to find out if they do. So I think it would be very difficult for me to give a comprehensive picture. I think it would be wrong to say that no skills transfer is happening, because there are many, for example, through the SARCI research chairs, it is a very solid requirement that when you are a research chair, that you are developing young academics, and you have requirements for doctoral students and postdocs and all kinds of, you have specific development and capacity development targets when you're running a SARCI chair. So there are, through many mechanisms in universities, but as a department we do not have a measure for this. It's not something that we require in our reporting regulations at the moment.
Thank you very much. Maybe something you should be adding very urgently. Chair, I just want to go over to the National Skills Fund. I have a number of questions about that, but the first one is the rabbit value chain, the 35.7 million rand paid, and I just want to get to where the oversight in all of that was. So on slide 25, they dealt with the rabbit value chain project. And we saw there that there was supposed to be 250 learners in that program. So SIU now reports to us that only 43 learners appears in the final report, and that is particularly concerning. And I think the very first question there is, can the SIU tell us if anywhere in the process of your investigation have you seen who authorized that money?
Thank you very much. Yes, we know who authorized the money.
Without divulging, because I know it's an ongoing
Yes, I don't want to divulge the names
Yes.
of the people, but
I understand.
we know who divulged the money, who authorized the money.
So you've identified the officials who certified every single tranche of the money that was paid and how they were monitoring the program and saw that the allocated 250 learners were not, have not gone through the program. And you know exactly who authorized all the invoices.
Yes, Honorable Member, yes, we know who authorized the money, and we should be able to refer to the Department for Consequence Management.
Last question, Honorable Christians.
So I just want to, having asked that question to DHET then, when did you first become aware of the problem with this particular program, with the rabbit value chain? And when you became aware of it, what intervention has taken place? Have you actually traced any of the students, any of the programs? What has happened so far?
DG, who's going to answer this one?
Thank you very much, Honorable Christian, for that question. I believe that I've been to Scopa more times in my entire career on just this matter than any other matter. Reporting departmental interventions, including to be direct to the question, the fact that the SIU investigation follows a departmental investigation which was presented as and it was called a nexus report. And that input by the department was reported to Parliament, and the shortcomings of that report were also identified. And we agreed that due to the shortcomings in that report, we must initiate a broader investigation that led to the proclamation that has resulted in the SIU investigating now. We also reported that we appointed an independent panel to follow consequences to those who were responsible. And this was also reported to Parliament. And in our report, it was indicated, the officials, it was also indicated that the limitation of that work was that it was only dealing with non-compliance and not criminality. And therefore, the work of the SIU is going to lead us to, and I like the fact that the response has now been given that once the SIU is done, this will also be given to the department so that we are able to take that work forward now to follow the areas which we didn't follow at that time because the focus was just the compliance.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Nguban. And I'll give you next. I'm worried we do have all have a sitting, so I want all of us to finish. Honorable Nguban.
Oh yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Look, thank you very much for all the presentation. First and foremost, I'll start with the 1 year SIU. Because I think mostly what SIU presented is what they presented before. It's only now it's updated with some other information. My major concern with SIU, I've picked it up from, which means if I've picked it up from MICT-SETA, I can tell you now it's happening across on all the other institutions you are investigating. The issue of follow-up, referrals, and tribunal, what that is happening outside of your control. How is SIU? Because it looks like you need to close the gap. Let me tell you on the example that I'm talking about, the MICT-SETA. Most investigation that happened, I was there as a chairperson. It was done by me, right? It was not by me. It was instituted by me. And then after the whole investigation happened, the report said I must do X, Y, Z. I did all of that. I went to Midrand Police Station. I opened cases. I did everything I could. When my term ended, I left. And when I checked there, most of the things that you said needs to be done, nothing of them were done, some of them, and there were no follow-up. Even the cases at Midrand today, I can tell you what it's now called cold cases. There's a possibility for that. And then and even there is some element of naughtiness from the new chief in charge that will come and take over from anyone. Remember, I said I'm giving the example of what I've seen, which means it's happening on all other institutions. When someone who knows the case evaporates and someone who doesn't know, the criminals now look for a fresh mind, someone who doesn't know that they can go soften up. Or they create some relationship. And then on MICT-SETA, the companies that we refer to Treasury for what you call it, directors to be, what you call that thing? Companies never to do business with government. I forgot terminology of it. Blacklisting. Certain companies that you said must be blacklisted on your report, and I referred there to Treasury. Guess what? Those things were reversed by the new regime again. Now, why I'm asking that? This is one institutional example. And now you're investigating a whole lot of range, right? In this whole lot of range, similar things will happen like the MICT-SETA. Because the SIU ends up on referrals, on tribunal, and Hawks, NPA must proceed, and all those stuff. Somewhere, somehow, the SIU needs to, you need to try and find a way of each and everything that came up from your report to get a quarterly, monthly report back where this issue is, how far have you done what we told you to do? If you haven't done it, why you haven't done it, and what has changed? What did you found after our investigation? For example, someone died, as a simple example. We told you blacklist this one, he died. Who must I blacklist? I write it back. Apparently, Mr. X has passed on, so hence there's no blacklisting or whatever. But there is some element of naughtiness. So I know what I'm saying, I'm blaming the wrong guy, the wrong person. You didn't do these things. But it will help if you, as an SIU, things don't fall on the cracks. There's a lot of things that will fall on the cracks on all this, on NSFAS, on many things, on your referral. So that's my request from your side, that there needs to be some element on all your proclamation investigations and output and to say X, Y, Z needs to be done. Because as I said, I've given you example of MICT SETA. Till today, and after that, remember, your proclamation sometimes take 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and the board's changes from there, they impact on the implementations. And you find that what you said in the first 5 years by the new regime that takes over, the other ones won't take that report as their concentration. They will focus on something else. And even the culprit create relationship with new people who said, this one, they don't know the story, they are new. They go and twist words and say, change this and do whatever. Or they know that this one is not strict as like the previous one. Now we have a loop. So there is that concern or on your presentation first, that there is that gap that needs to be closed by the SIU to say, in everything you started, see it to fruition, implementation, and completion, and do the follow-up and feedback, and close it when it is legitimately feel that it's really closed legitimately, or get an output from whoever it's supposed to be. That's just the first. And I think, let me finish the other so that you comment on everyone. And then on NSFAS, you said the universities claim NSFAS qualifying student, but NSFAS record claim they don't have the data confirming that qualifying students. And then you said after that the collection from students really that benefited unduly. Well, what I want to know from that is, was it whose fault it was? Was it for the student or the university for that amount you said it is being attempted to be collected from students, but they find it difficult to pay? When those students were granted all those, at that time, I think it was legit. So what changed in between? Whose fault it was? Was it a student or was it a university? If you can answer that, yeah.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Kubane. We may have maybe missed the opportunity during our presentation to talk to the mandate of the SIU. There are certain actions that are really out of our mandate, but in terms of our end-to-end processes, civil litigation is one of them. Once we take the matter to special tribunal or to High Court for a civil claim, that is we own that process. We'll have to see it to the end. Chairperson, around 2017, we identified the same gaps that you have now highlighted in terms of following up on some of these matters. And we reviewed our strategy then. And we then established a unit called monitoring. It's in the SIU, we do that post-referral monitoring of our matters. And when we send letters either to NPA or to the institution of a DC, we give them 90 days to report back to the SIU in terms of what actions they will be taking in terms of our referrals. With regard to the blacklisting, Honorable Member, we refer the blacklisting to the institution. It is the institution then that must then refer to National Treasury for the formal blacklisting of the process. However, there is a process, an administrative process that must take place before a company can be blacklisted. That administration process must be undertaken between the entity appointed and then the institution that appointed it, taking the service provider through then the flaws and the issues, maybe the issues that the SIU has identified. However, Chairperson, we thank you for the guidance. we will go back. We are in a continuous phase of reviewing our processes. We're learning from all the experience that we get to be exposed to on a daily basis. Then on the NSFAS issue, we've got students that are really missing. We call it missing middle, in the sense that when students apply for NSFAS funding, obviously they have not been admitted in an institution. They've applied to different institutions, and when they submit an application to NSFAS, maybe they will list VETS as the university of their choice. However, they get admitted in UKZN. I'm just making an example on the names of the university. Then NSFAS, in terms of their processes, they will then approve the student and send the money to VETS. It will only be during the year that then the reconciliation of then the monies will be done, and then the student then will tell NSFAS that, I'm not actually at VETS, I'm now at UKZN. So those are then the issues around funding that has been provided for students to universities that are not actually allocated to those universities. So this is the reconciliation that we as the SIU are doing. And in terms of that reconciliation, then we then instruct the university to pay back the monies that were not due to it, so that then they could be reallocated to the relevant universities. In relation to students that are not qualifying, in most instances, the students will apply and misrepresent in their application that their parents are not working. And it will only be after the fact that NSFAS maybe will go through the SARS database to find out that the parents are working. And by that time, some monies would have been paid, and now the process of reversing that process, it takes a little bit of time. Thank you so much, Chair.
Yeah, maybe before you move, Tandy, this HEMIS thing, why does it allow same student, the same ID number, to register in two institutions in the same year? How is that possible? And we say we've got a reliable system called HEMIS. That deals with this university? How does it allow that to happen?
Well, I mean, a student can register in two different institutions for two different qualifications if they want to. They can also transfer to institutions. But the HEMIS data is used for the
So the
subsidy.
first year student can apply and register at VETS and UKZN at the same time.
If they want to, yes. I mean, I'm not sure why anyone would afford to do it. But I think the issue is that HEMIS is not a database that is used for NSFAS. And HEMIS is not a live database, as I said. So it is used to make funding decisions, but based on the N- years. So you use the information from the year before to make decisions about funding going forward. So it's used as a funding mechanism. It's not intended as a database to determine who should be funded for NSFAS. You can reconcile the data, but only at a later date. You can't do it in a live moment.
So
particularly, it can happen particularly with student, maybe at UNISA, for example. So a student might be registered at a contact institution, but they may be picking up an additional course here and there at UNISA, or even at another university. They may be doing another course to get to a particular qualification end or something like that. Maybe they want to enter into a particular qualification and they haven't got the right. So that happens quite a lot. The difficulty for NSFAS is that NSFAS should only be funding a student at one institution. That's what the policy says. So NSFAS needs to verify that they are funding that student at that institution.
no, so why do we rely on this HEMIS thing?
HEMIS is
On the funding decision part.
We don't use it for NSFAS.
So,
Well, NSFAS uses
no,
it
hold
to
on.
check.
No, that's not true, Chandi. Why? No, hold on. So, how does NSFAS gets university students, returning students' results? How do they get them?
They get them directly from the universities.
So they don't rely on HEMIS.
No, they don't, but they do triangulate data with HEMIS when they can. But it's not immediately because of the delay in when the audited data comes out.
So we can't call NSFAS here and they say to us, for an example, with the NGAP investigations now, they can't come here and tell us that those NGAP investigation were initiated by the HEMIS data that went to NSFAS in March. That we can get.
So the HEMIS data that we are getting now at the department and is being audited is the data from 2025.
Yes.
So the next year's will be the 2026 data.
No, I'm saying this is, so you are saying NSFAS does not use that data to look at, to give us, or to take a funding decision.
Not to take a funding decision, but they may use it to look at the closeout project. To look at previous years, they may use it for that.
It's fine, we'll call NSFAS, because that's not how I understand it. And I want us to be clear that we are saying the HEMIS data is 1 year behind, that is one. Two, NSFAS does not use it to take funding decisions in this. So the 2026 or the 2026 funding decisions, or NGAP, has got nothing to do with the HEMIS. So you can continue.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think as I close to SIU, Chair, the emphasis of what I said is very important, even if you have to change your mandate. Or your mandate. Luckily, you've told me that you've now have a new department for monitoring, because I can go on most of the things you've counted, CHIETA, NSF, NSFAS, a lot of them that you counted. If I can revisit them now, there are no activities, no one has been disciplined, no one has been arrested, but you've done a great job on producing a report, recommendation, and handed them over, and it ended there. So there is a problem in the gap, in the whole system. You spend a lot of money, resources, investigating, producing amazing report, and then handing them over to NPA, police station, board chairperson, CEOs, and then that element, it dies again. And they in closing, it's just to say that I think what the other stuff you mentioned, there's a lot that I can tell you. Fort Hare, same thing. VUT, CHIETA, NSF. I think you spoke about ICALA and PSET as well. If today you can push your new department to go and look at these and check them, you'll find that most of the cases that you said, recommended for activities to be done, they just fell on the cracks. They fell on the cracks how? Because of the new leadership that took over, the new CEO that took over. Some of them they took over, they didn't follow up, and some of them created relationship with those culprits and find some methodology to let this thing go away. A whole lot of range on all these things that you've mentioned. That's my only problem with the SIU. Other than that, I think the work that you're doing is excellent. Again, luckily I sit as well on a portfolio committee of Home Affairs. That investigation you did about passports, syndicated, Home Affairs, and all those stuff, you'll find that some of the staff have resigned. It ended there. The moment you pick them up, the syndicates that are there in Home Affairs that are issuing study permits when people are not studying, the numbers that you put in here are just a drop in an ocean. It's more than that. probably they run on 100,000, on 500,000 syndicate. That has been done. Hence, I said some of the staff at Home Affairs that did what they did, I wish they can go to prison for probably for life sentences, because the compromising that they've put our country on is big. So we've got foreigners that are working at SAPS, intelligence everywhere, all over. They have legit document and they have everything. And the other thing, there was one, I don't know what it was, Department of Labor, where you said you said the people received the document and they document, you can see that this document is fraudulent, but they don't have a checking mechanism. I don't know whether it's Department of Labor or it was SIU. Yes. Yeah. And again, it's on the gap of the system. These documents come from Home Affairs. As look legit, some are fraudulent, and then people get employed with them. The gaps on verification and on looking at the fraudulent document. Again, there is that. So I think as I end, that's all on SIU. If we can close that gap. I thought I was still going to go to the Department of Labor. And then, Chair, on the Labor Department,
last question.
other questions, then I will submit them on writing. You spoke about the critical skills list that is 3 years old, 2023, first and foremost. It's Home Affairs. Oh, it's Home Affairs. Yeah, but you said it's 2023. Why is it 2023? And then there was an argument between about the health science, that it's not a critical skills list. Isn't that between the DHET and Home Affairs? DHET is the one that creates a critical list through CETAs and industry specialists. Now, when Tandi comes here and said in the health science, this is not a critical list, Home Affairs can't be blamed from that. It comes from your HWCETA. Your HWCETA engages nurses and doctors and all people in the health sciences and say, update this, and they update it. So Home Affairs received what has been given by CETAs and the industry specialists, Tandi, on the health, the argument with the Department of Labor. They receive what comes from your department, from health CETAs, because all sectors, MICT CETA speak with industrialists. My only concern, Chair, is that, again, they're relying on a 3-year-old critical skills list. In IT, critical skills list change within a year or 6 months. When now you still have a 3-year-old critical skills list. That's my problem with that.
Thank you very much. That was a comment, Honorable Sols.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think maybe I want to start with the SIU, and perhaps just say to the SIU, thank you very much, especially for exposing the corruption of some foreign pastors. It helps because it shows that there's a scripture that says, a tree shall be known by its fruits. So it doesn't mean that you're a pastor that you will always do the right thing. Like myself and Chair, I walk with the Bible, not because I'm perfect, but because of how much I need the Bible for my imperfections. But why is that important for me is because just like what normal South Africans are going through, government must be careful that we don't use what we find on some foreign pastors and their corruption and punish local South African pastors who are doing the right thing. Because that has also become a trend. And I want to say that there are local South African pastors who are true in their calling and has been serving people truthfully for years. So government must be sure that they don't contribute and participate in the kingdom suffering violence, because I think the time has come where the kingdom will take it by force. So SIU, thank you very much. Then Home Affairs. What is the reason for partnering with the Department of Higher Education and Labor to make sure that foreign nationals get jobs that South Africans can do? Home Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Member Sauls. In the presentation, the reason for partnering with DHET is of the research capability that they have on the critical skills list, for example. And as Honourable...
Sorry, sir, just because of my time, no disrespect meant when I interject. I'm asking that partnership that you are referring to, why are you partnering with them to ensure that foreign nationals gets the jobs that South Africans can do? Why are you partnering for that purpose?
Chair, the Honourable Sauls, I'm not sure if I'm going to respond correctly. Maybe Pindi can also come in. Your question is why are we, is your question, maybe I can ask clarification. Is your question, Honourable Chair, that we are partnering with those two departments to ensure that foreigners are appointed instead of South Africans?
Yes.
Maybe I could ask on not on what basis, but any foreigner wants to work within South Africa needs to have an offer of employment. And the offer of employment is issued by a person or organization or university who finds it.
Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to show you in a minute why. Labor, what is the reason that you're partnering with Home Affairs and DHET to ensure that foreigners are getting jobs that South Africans can do?
We don't partner with them for that purpose. It's my short answer.
Thank you. DHET, what is the reason for you partnering with the Department of Home Affairs and the Department of Labor to ensure that foreign nationals get jobs that South Africans can do?
Thank you very much, Honourable Sauls. We do not partner with Home Affairs and DEL to ensure that foreign nationals get appointed. The memoranda of understanding that we have specifically with Home Affairs is that it is our duty as DHET to ensure that we appoint a service provider that will work with us to not only, as Honourable Ngubane indicated, work with universities, but work with all people.
Okay.
Where all people who are in the skills space.
Okay.
To determine which skills, scarce skills, critical skills only that South Africa cannot provide, which then must not be imported. And our output
Okay,
is
sorry.
handing over the technical report.
I'm
to
satisfied.
Home
Thank you very
Affairs.
much. I'm
Thank you,
satisfied.
Honorable.
Thank you, ma'am. Home Affairs. As legislature, we gave you a law, Section 38 of the Immigration Act. And that law says that no foreign national must be employed unless the employer goes and makes sure that there's no South African that can do that job. Is that correct?
Yes, Honourable Member, it's in the...
So that's the law. You then went and created a points-based system. What the points-based system does, that you just explained, is that if someone gets 100 points, they get a critical skills visa just by getting 100 points. And how do they get 100 points? They've got to prove that the job that they're applying for is on the critical skills list, correct?
Yes, that's part of it.
Now, the points-based system is not the law. So what Home Affairs has essentially done is made it easier for a foreign national just to reach 100 points by having a job on the critical skills list, then waives what the law says an employer must do. I put it to you, Home Affairs has made it easier for foreign nationals to get jobs that South Africans can do.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The points-based system, as was also indicated in the presentation, comes from a recommendation from the Vulundlela report. I think I said that the other time as well.
I understand. Tell me, does it do what I just said it does? When I'm a foreign national and I have a job on a critical skills list, you give me 100 points.
Yes,
And when you give me 100 points, you give me a critical skills visa.
that's correct.
And then I can go and do a job, and the employer does not need to find out whether a South African can do that job.
Yes, Honourable Member, because that occupancy is on the critical skills list,
I'll get
which
there.
indicates there's a shortage of that skill
I'll
within the
get there,
country.
but it's based on an outdated skills list. That's why I'm saying you and DHET is partnering, because all you use is what's on the critical skills list. And as we stand now, when last was this list updated?
2023,
That's
2024.
3 years ago. So all this time you are giving people critical skills visas. Employers doesn't have to go look whether South Africans can do that job, because you made it easier just by giving them points. That's not the law. It's affecting South Africans. You see my reasoning?
But the critical skills list, Honourable Member, if I can say, Pindy, maybe you can look at the Act, is in the Act and empowers the Minister of Home Affairs
I
to
agree.
publish a critical skills list.
I agree. But it's outdated. And it waives what Section 38 says. Section 38 says, even though there's a critical skill, the employer must go and look whether a South African can do that job. Your point-based system waives that requirement. Who empowered you to do that?
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
It brings me back to the other point I raised earlier, Honourable Chair, is that the Operation Vulundlela report, which was research conducted by the presidency,
that the law?
recommended that if you look at the points-based system,
Is it the law, sir?
what the minister then did on recommendation from the Vulundlela report is waive the requirement for the labour letter because of the points-based system.
That's
And
what I mean.
It's the minister's right in terms of the act to waive it.
That's what I mean. You are just saying to me, that's what the recommendation said, but that recommendation is not the law. Because of that recommendation, a employer can waive the requirement by the law to go and look whether there's a South African to do the job. Do you see my reasoning?
Yes, but also then we need to go into the points-based system, Honourable Member, with all respect. The points-based system, if you look at the criteria in the points-based system, number one, qualification. It says the qualification very high.
Sir, you are justifying something that's unjustifiable. The question is, does a person receive 100 points when he's on that critical skills list? Yes. And when he has 100 points, he receives a critical skills visa without requiring him to get a letter from labor. That letter from labor would have meant that labor says the employer went to go see first whether there's a South African that can do the job. Do we agree?
It is like that, Honourable Member, but it's not against the law because the minister empowered to
I'm not
waive
saying-
that provision within the
I'm not saying it's against the law. What you're saying to me is, yes, it has that effect on South Africans, but it's not against the law. You are basically saying you are legally depriving South Africans from jobs that they can do.
But if I can just another comeback, if we look at the points-based system and what type of labor the points-based system is trying to attract, it's highly skilled, highly paid, highly educated individuals, highly experienced individuals. That is outlined in the critical skills, and that's why the recommendation,
Where
because
do you
it
find
does
that?
not compete.
Who informs you? Who informs that? Where do you go to determine that? I'll tell you where you go. The critical skills list.
No, that's two different ones.
I'm
Honourable
talking
Member.
about DHET. We're talking about universities. Where do you go? Where do you go? The critical skills list, correct.
Yes, but the
And
critical...
it's outdated, 3 years. And as a result, and I'm only interjecting because of my time, because there's a lot I want to do. We both must agree that if my job is on the critical skills list that's outdated for 3 years, you as Home Affairs has created a system that gives me an automatic 100 points. When I have 100 points, I automatically get a critical skills visa, which means I don't need to have an employer first go and look whether a South African can do the job. Do we agree that's the effect of the point-based system?
That's the intention of the critical skills list.
Yes.
Honourable Member.
And do you now see that it impacts South Africans?
DHET will speak to the research when it gets to compilation of this critical skills list, Honourable Member. And it's there to ensure that the country attracts the skills required to grow the economy, the critical skills that's required for these positions.
You now took my time. So I'll just, with the chair's indulgence, make a statement and then I'll close, Chair. Because my time is up, I wanted to ask other questions, but I'd rather just condense. So, to Home Affairs, to DHET, and to Labor, maybe it was unintentional, but you have partnered to deprive South Africans from jobs that they can do and gives it to foreign nationals. The 100-point system waives the requirement of the Employment Systems Act, Section 8, that says an employer must first go look if a South African can do that job. Then you give them the letter that says you have confirmed that in good faith the employer went to go look first. But what Home Affairs has done is now is waive that requirement. As a result, Dr. Umpekwa has a doctorate and a foreign national has received that job that belongs to her. How do we know that it's valid? There's a young man, Rowan Goliath. He has a BSc in chemistry and applied mathematics. He has an honors in physics. He has a master's in physics from El Dorado Park. He does not have a job. But when we look at the stats, there is a foreign national that is occupying that job. How do we know that? More foreign nationals are employed in universities than coloreds and Indians combined. We're not here to put you in a corner. We're not here to make you look bad. We're here to tell you South Africans are crying and you are not helping. You're prioritizing foreigners. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. I think that was a comment. Quickly to SIU. Slide 47, you speak about on NSFAS, you speak about the irregularity of the 4 companies that were appointed to distribute allowances to students. And I agree with how you termed this thing, but what would you say if I tell you now that, or maybe were you part of NSFAS court case against these 4 people when they were trying to to cancel them?
Honorable Chair, yes, we were part of the proceedings.
I'm told that NSFAS with yourself lost or something to this 4 in court.
Chair, let me perhaps provide context. We didn't lose the case. The Special Investigating Unit uses the tribunal for very obvious reasons and certain advantages. We were preparing to launch our review application in the special tribunal, which review application had Part A, which would then have been to interdict the enforcement of the 4 contracts pending the determination of the main review application, which was intended to review and set aside NSFAS's decision to award the 4 service providers the tender and to declare the subsequent agreements unconstitutional, unlawful, and void ab initio. The board, prior to its demise, had taken a decision following Werksman's sanctioned investigation to put on hold the services of the 4 service providers, but it had not acted on its decision. There was then a development that an administrator was appointed, and subsequent to the appointment of the administrator, and perhaps without consulting us, the administrator executed on the previous board's decision. which technically meant self-help without really getting legal recourse to suspend the legality that flew from those agreements. The service provider ran to the High Court in the Western Cape, of course, for the enforcement of the agreements. So it put a lot of spin because we've now had to change tact, to move from the special tribunal to come to the High Court to come rescue what appeared to be a sinking ship. The agency of that immediate application did not succeed, but it was had on expedited basis, and the self-help was stopped. Whilst there was an appeal, parties ultimately agreed that the review application by the 4 service providers to challenge the decision of NSFAS to terminate the agreements would be had with our review application, which would have been issued in the special tribunal, but which was utilized as a counter application in the High Court. So those matters were consolidated, were heard in the High Court before a full bench. And the decision to award the tenders was reviewed and set aside. So we got what we wanted. The only challenge is there was an element of self-help that I earlier indicated. And the court acknowledged that for that period, there would have been no rational basis to terminate the agreements. And to that extent, the court did acknowledge that there was a valid agreement until the contracts were set aside. So there was no losing of the case, at least insofar as the SIU is concerned. Thank you, Chair.
So in short, what you are saying is the decision of the self-help by the administrator has created problems for NSFAS, if I'm hearing you correctly.
As I understand, the decision was taken by the previous board. It was the execution which was triggered by the administrator.
Yeah, so what was the time difference between the decision taken by the board and the triggering by the administrator? Do you have the details of the time frame in between?
I think perhaps our colleagues from the investigation space, but it looks like the decision was taken in the previous year. But the investigator can assist us, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think the time difference is almost a year.
Okay.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much. What is the process if any member here wants to refer either an institution or NSF or a CETA to yourselves for investigation? Must it go through the proclamation by the president? What is the process?
Thank you, Chairperson. The process of referral, it's simple. The committee can just write to the head of the Special Investigating Unit with maybe supporting document that will assist us in motivating for a proclamation. Or you can also copy the office, the presidency in that communication. It then helps to fast track the process. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm asking because this member has asked us that question a lot. The issue of a critical skills list. The problem with it is that you update it after a long time. And my understanding is that when you put together this critical skills list, you consult with the relevant department. So if you want if you want to put a critical skills list in forestry, for an example, you will consult with the relevant department. Then you will say you are putting it as a critical skills list, and they must work with Department of Higher Education and Training through institutions to close that gap. So the reason why it's on the list is to alert the Department of Higher Education on how they must structure their, what do you call those plans of first years? What do you call them? Enrollment plans. So we then say, in 2027, we're going to have 250,000 spaces for first years, or F10s. But those 250,000 spaces don't fall from the sky, in my understanding. Well, or if the system was working well, would say we have 20 20 things on the critical skills list. It's almost China. We've got 20 careers in the critical skills list, occupations in the critical skills list. These 20, we currently in the pipeline, DG, they get on the critical skills list because of demand. We say the demand of medical doctors in South Africa, in order for us to close the gap, will be if we have 300,000 medical doctors. I'm making an example. But in the pipeline currently, in 3 years' time, would have produced 75,000 because they are in the pipeline. And in order for us to get 225,000, the enrollment plans should increase on medical and possibly on HR decrease. So for me, this is how an enrollment plan should work like. You don't wake up and say, I've got 270,000 F10 spaces without answering the question. And what is the question? The question is that critical skills list. But it will be futile if the critical skills list is not reviewed. Maybe we can say every second year. But it can't be 3 years and 4 years because it might not be responding to the question. So we will need to have the departments to have a proper discussion. Because you are supposed to have, in November, the minister is expected to release the ministerial statement where he must tell how many spaces are there, F10 spaces will be there. And that ministerial statement should be accompanied by this, because in that they will say, these are the enrollment plans. So the departments must assist us to respond to the question, right? There's issue of criminality. We must not run away from it. That Home Affairs, Home Affairs' weaknesses and immoral and unethical, some of the immoral and unethical workers creates a problem for us. Because the SIU says people enter the country through fraudulent study visas. So if they arrive in the country with fraudulent study visas, they say, I have a space at VETS. But VETS does not know that this child or this person is going to study there. They arrive here, DG. Then because they had applied at this, they've created a link with this immoral and unethical worker at Home Affairs. They go and create some fake factory producing drugs so that they have money to buy them for a permanent residence. So if we had Home Affairs, we would have said, DG, maybe from the numbers that the SIU has seen so far, those ones, there must be a time period where a special or an amended proclamation on what you are doing to now go and look at who has this permanent residence. Because most of them, they might be working in different platforms, including in our universities. They might be very well working in our universities. And that would be my issue there, but unfortunately we're not at Home Affairs. Maybe we must lobby Home Affairs to help us with that part. There must be proper coordination between our institutions. You see, if our system, government, they spoke about one country, one plan. But it does not seem like it's there, because what could be happening is that when Home Affairs says you have brought in an application for a study visa to us, before you issue anything, before you even interview these people, you take their papers, you give them to DHET. And say, DHET, confirm if VETS or UKZN has given a space to this person. And then if it turns out that there's no such, you then go to arrest this person quickly. Yeah, go open a case. They were trying to defraud immediately. You don't even consider the point. Nothing. What must happen is that we've got one country, one plan, including those that bring in work visas. Same process. You say, where are you going to work? Especially if it's private, because that's where they're going to do. They're going to open a company with their friends there. And then this person won't even work there. They're just going to, when you call them, they'll even give you their house numbers. If you have lazy workers who does not want to go and verify, they'll just call and say, this person is going to work here, you issue. Wrong. So you might need to have systems that will help us. Labor, you, and I'm happy you are here, you are Inspector General. Yeah, I like that. You see, you might need to inspect. I know advocates said in the next phase, that's when we're going to enforce what. No, we must enforce now. And how do you enforce now? Is that you go to these universities. Let me tell you what is the problem, what you must go and enforce. Is that a person is employed in South Africa today using a visa that, or a student visa. She was a research person, what do you call that, the postdoc. Came there as a postdoc. They'd been working for more than 5 years without updating the visa because it's illegal to work in South Africa without the relevant visa. Some of them, they came here as professors, correctly so, employed at VETS. But they've since moved to UCT without applying. That's illegal. So what you must then do to help us is to go do enforcement there. So when you go to a university, you can't come and beg and say, like department, and say, we're only getting 30% of. If you go to them, they refuse to give you recruitment data. I'm sure you open a criminal case immediately. Yeah, you arrest them. Inspector General, you issue an instruction to say, this is what you are going to go and do. Right? That's what is going to hold, because the department says there's no criminality here. And I can tell you, if you can go and do it, it's August now, end of August. In the end of November, you'll come back to us and said, we've went to 5 institutions and we've found 30 irregularities. I can guarantee you. And then we'll come and bring the department and said, you said you want illegality. Here it is. So let's go and do our issues. There's this criminality on student accommodation. I know that the public protector said she's going to look at it. But DG, you might need to help us. Well, we'll take our own to say that out of all of these beds, there are more than 300,000 that we are paying for. Would like a deep dive. But we can't take long. The problem with taking, we don't want the result to come in 2028. So we must emphasize that this investigation must finish. Maybe we must get a report by June next year. Because I can tell you now, DG, Honorable Souls did say that I'm a prophet. I'm telling you, you'll find big problems there. You'll find beds that do not exist, having been paid for years, including before NSFAS was accrediting. This was universities. I can tell you now, you'll find beds that do not exist. So I really don't have, I want to thank you, Labour. Your presentation responded to the question that we're asking. Is the committee crazy in saying that there is a high concentration of foreign nationals at the top echelons of our institutions? And your thing responded to that part. By the way, what we have not dealt with today is foreign nationals should be hired on critical and scarce skill. On presentations, we have unskilled. It's written, it's not us who have written it. It comes from universities. They bring us and say, unskilled. Then they say we've got 12 foreigners, foreign nationals. They themselves. And you are correct, your presentation actually is it talks about the next generation leaders of those institutions, which is the professional there. There are institutions where it is highly concentrated. And this is the point we've been making, that there is and you are correct again in your assertion that when a foreign national is a dean, for an example, head of department, you must go and check. There was one day at Wits. That one irritated me. She went on Twitter and said South Africans are lazy. I did not take that kindly. I did not take that kindly. Prof. Syria, I can mention her. She irritated me, calling South Africans lazy. This person was the HO, the head of department on psychology. So I asked myself, if she has this mentality of saying South Africans, who is she teaching? So it means the very same South Africans that she's supposed to empower, she's taking them, she's finishing them. And probably those South Africans in that department have got mental health problems now. Because if this person who's supposed to empower you, every time she tells you how useless you are. That one I did not take lightly. I did not take lightly. And I knew once I speak about her, the big bosses of the sector will come. And they came. Because we penned an opinion. We actually released a statement first about her. At least South Africans responded. She was forced to resign. But after that, what came, I knew, that was coming. When we said we are not against internationalization policy, we are against how it is irregularly being implemented. You know what? I'm sure we had 5 or 6 what do you call this, open letters. I think 2 were from vice chancellors. Some professors responding to the wrong question. We never said we're against policy framework on internationalization, but we are saying it must be implemented in line with the country's laws. That's what it says. You honor the same policy. They came and responded to the wrong question. If I was an academic marking their papers, all of them, they would have gotten 0. Because they are not responding to the question. The question is, are you implementing this policy that we all agree on? Are you implementing it correctly? They come and say, no, the policy is this one. And this is why the policy is important. Nothing responding to, are you implementing it correctly? 0, all of them. And I did say that they are getting 0. So I'm going to give you have a follow-up, 2 minutes each on follow-up. Same Honorable Christians. You are not ready, I can give Honorable Guban.
I just have one short follow-up, Chair, just about the NSF funding. So we've heard now about missing learners and missing rabbits and, and we know it's a tip of the iceberg, Chair, because money has been moving to personal accounts and, there's no supporting documentation. So is the SIU telling us that we're seeing a systemic failure of the NSF here? And if so, I would like to know, with the depth of this maladministration, does that then not tell us, or doesn't the question then that is left? Chair, I want to ask the question. Why should we continue, trying to save this NSF project? Because millions are going out, it's really a systemic problem. Shouldn't we, and because you've done an in-depth investigation, and it's still an ongoing investigation as well, shouldn't we be reconsidering the NSF project and rather be saying that, can it continue in its current form, or should we be directing that money directly to TVET colleges, where it should be, instead of through this NSF funding, where it's open to so much maladministration?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair,
I must just warn you that is a very political statement.
I noted, Chairperson.
Yeah.
Chairperson, our investigations are still ongoing. We cannot really comment on the funding itself. That is really something that is outside our scope. What we will be doing, we will already obviously identify systemic weaknesses in the process of the few that we are investigating, and we will pronounce on the administrative flaws around those few. Thank you so much, Chair.
No, thank you. That Nexus report covered about 10 entities, investigations. There are 10 entities, and out of possibly 1,000 that gets. So I was just warning you that it's a political statement, and I'll not tell you why. But it was a political statement, and I think you answer it correctly, because I know these members, they are not, sometimes they'll ask you a policy question. I can come and ask you a policy question of my political party without telling you that this is a policy proposal of mine. I think you passed with flying colors. If I was an academic, yeah, there you're getting 10 out of 10. Honorable Nguban.
Yeah, Chair, is to get clarity from the gentleman from the Department of Labor. There was something you said. You said when you were showing the percentages in the middle layer of management, where institution there is a high percentage non-compliance, or there is a high percentage of that non-compliance. Does that reflection tells us that in the next 5 or 3 years to come, with the upward mobility or progression, we might find all those foreigners now qualifying to go and lead these institutions. Because remember, we've put them on this layer of saying, you can move from this management, you now qualify, you can move here, you can move here. Was your slide reflecting that we are on a certain risk, and this is the risk we are heading towards at the trajectory these institutions are going that you mentioned?
No, thank you so much, Honorable Member. That's correct. In terms of how it is structured, you have professional level, you have senior management, you have top management. So you can then become, or it's unusual, to become a top manager when we are not a senior manager, or to become a senior manager when we are not in the professional band. So it tells you to say you must be an academic first, then you'll be professional, then you can be a head of department, then you can become a dean of faculty, which will put you at top management. So in essence, what we are saying is that we need to take stock of that and be very serious and use our sectoral targets to determine that. Because if we don't nip it in the bud, then we are going to have the outcome that is undesirable. So it's in the pipeline, like the chairperson was saying. So we need to check that and make sure that we monitor that very seriously. So it's even as important as employing a junior academic. It's very important that he must be a South African, or she must be a South African, so that progression will bear fruit in terms of transformation.
Yeah, Chair, the reason why I'm asking is because it's confirming what the UKZN is experiencing. In presentation, it says once they are in the middle layer, they qualify to go on top. And once they go on top, it's a freeway. They come. I received, remember I told you I received numerous complaints in KZN. The locals are complaining about being flushed out, and then there is an influx.
Yeah.
So it's confirming what we know, yeah.
Thank you. Honorable Souls.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to know, does Home Affairs see the link between how a recommendation, Vulindlela recommendation, goes against what Section 38 of the Immigration Act requires, and the 100-base system waives that requirement for employers to go and look whether there's a South African to do the job? And does DHET see the link of them having an outdated critical skills list that assists that program, or that assists that effort that affects South Africans? And does Labour see that by virtue of the fact that you are responsible for Section 8 of the Employment Services Act, you had to challenge Home Affairs to say that you cannot waive the requirement to go and look for a South African? Does the Trade Department seize that link that now has a cause of South Africans not getting jobs that they qualify to do?
Yeah, there's already know that they see it. Home Affairs. The point system.
The points-based system. Chair, since the inception of the points-based system, and Mr. Mbele just checked now, in October 2024, we have only received 280 applications, and only half of that, about half of that, has been approved. So I'm raising this point to indicate and emphasize the point that the points-based system is trying to attract highly skilled, highly educated individuals to apply. And that's why so few are applying, because we're attracting a person that earns 3 times the medium wage of a South African, Chair. And that's the purpose of the points-based system. Thank you.
Yeah, the point of Honorable Souls is that we are dealing with a highly sophisticated syndicates sometimes. I can be a foreigner, have money, open a front business or fronting business, and say I sell tomatoes. Then I'm hiring you as my brother from Swaziland. I hire you well on paper. You've been a manager for some company there in Swaziland. I'm going to hire you here as an executive manager, making you earn 3 times on paper. But when you arrive here, the company does not really exist. So the point is, if we don't have strong mechanisms to verify, the point-based system is vulnerable because it depends on the sophistication of the criminality we're dealing with. And we know, you see, if you go to Fox Street in Johannesburg, people there are lured to businesses that never exist, but they are there on the internet. So they open an internet website just for 1 month. And then they go there, they take our children. They say, no, receptionist here, what here. They go there, they never come back. So if you can't verify, whatever you're trying to do, they are going to bypass it. So the point we're trying to make here is that even if they come and say, I'm going to pay this person is going to earn 2.2 million, you must verify, get the right people to go verify the location physically so that we are able to close these things. And then not only that, after verifying the location physically, you look at this thing, you go to CIPC, you confirm. We must go to SARS. Is this company really existing? So that we're able to close any possible because it benefits other people if we work in isolation. We must try and close ranks on this particular issue. You know, the reason why I want Inspector General, I'm going to be a friend because there's a lot of inspection that must be done in our institutions. This issue of postdocs, I can tell you, is right, Honorable Nguban, about UKZN. It's one of those that I can tell for free, and they can take me to court if they want to, that they are using foreign postdocs as lecturers. In fact, they are putting in a lot of postdocs at UKZN ahead of South Africans. They bring all of them here. In fact, you must even look. There's 2 friends of mine with PhDs who went there for postdocs interviews. Out of the 5 people who were interviewing them, 4 of them were foreigners. Kuri, when I say these things, I'm telling you, for when they called me, they went, in fact, on the same day. When they called me, they were almost ready. These are guys. They were almost ready to cry. And they're saying, no, we are South Africans. We have studied. You guys said we must study. We have studied. You guys paid for our studies. And now, at the tail end of our growth, you close us out. You have no idea how many professors write to me on a daily basis. I don't know many of them. They write to me and they say, by the way, when this dean who's a foreigner was put there, they are flushing us out on the system to put, and you must see who are they replacing us with. We're non-South Africans without following process. So when we raise these issues, we're not trying to buy favor from anyone. And we're not going to be soft on you, DG, because it is us doing our job. Because our job as public representatives is to represent the public of this republic. And we're going to do it. I know they're not going to like us. We don't have a problem with that. We're not money. We're not going to be liked by everybody. Even money, there are some people who don't like it. I don't know who, but I'm told that there are people who don't like money. So we're not in the business of being liked. We're in the business of doing our job, and we're going to do it. So we'll ask you, Inspector General, when we inspect, like I said, I'm going to try and pester you a little bit. We're going to write, the right process for us, acting CEO, will write to you on the referrals, but we'll also write to the Speaker of the Republic of South Africa to write to the President for maybe changes in the proclamation or new proclamation that we believe will help us. Because it can be business as usual. On Friday, we're having a very important meeting. We're bringing even the Competition Commission because poor people that government says they are poor, and we're going to give you NSFAS. We gave you SASSA grant from when you were born. Universities today, they put them in accommodation they can't afford. NSFAS pays a certain amount, and I know why they are doing it. And that's why we're bringing competition. They are putting NSFAS students in more expensive accommodation intentionally. They withhold their certificates, create anger amongst them, so that they must cry and say it's NSFAS' fault. And NSFAS will probably give in to their demands of wanting to pay 11, 10,000, 12,000 per month. There were student leaders who I've invited them on Friday to come and explain. They said, no, scrap the cap. You know what does scrap the cap means? It means give universities blank checks. That's what they were saying. And I told them, I released a statement that I don't agree with them. I most of the time agree with the students, but I don't agree with them here because, in fact, some of them, other students who don't agree with them, even showed us photos and videos of them having met some association of private accommodation providers, taking advantage of young people to push the agenda of wanting to finish the state. Because if you finish NSFAS, you're finishing the state. There's an argument, take this money to universities. Could you imagine these universities are accrediting Ekaya, more just here next door, Ekaya. That they know, their own report. Barragan Council put together a task team to investigate. Early in the year, it comes and says this thing is bad. It can fall at any time. People can die. They put 700 children there. 700. And a non-compliant. Even today, they are still there. In February, during SONA, they went to where SONA was, near the city center. Even today, they are still there. Because these universities are saying, no, they are going to be there. It's us who are in charge here. And those kids must pay more than the cap. They will withhold their certificates. So we're going to intervene there, DG. On Friday, honestly speaking, if we don't agree there, and I don't want to threaten people, if we don't agree there, because we brought in the regulator, the real estate regulator, the competition commission, amongst other people, I know there's price fixing. There's no way. In fact, we might even need to say, we must check the accounts of these companies. You will see. If you go to those accounts, SIU, you will see that they are getting the money every month. But certain money goes out and in an unexplained fashion because they are paying bribes to these unethical, immoral university officials. I can guarantee you for free. I want to thank you, Jay. They did an investigation and found that one of theirs stole. Barry got how much? About 3 million in bribes. Then cost the university 18 million. I don't know. Even there, we must still check. Because that money, if those students were not there, how is it a university money? Must have come from NSFAS. We must check. Maybe NSFAS lost some money there. I was having an argument with one university employee this morning, saying, including NSFAS officials on that issue, must be charged. How? When NSFAS pays a university, how do you want to charge them? I agree they took information from you. And you are saying your employee did the wrong thing. Actually, you might be owing as a university NSFAS that money. So I want to thank you, colleagues. Really, it's really been a fruitful meeting for us. SIU are forever indebted to do the work that you do in the system. I know it's not easy. I'm sure these criminals, they sometimes threaten your lives. They try even with us, but Rona, so if they take us, we go to God, so we're okay. But we want to thank you for the work that you do. DHEAD officials, THA officials, DEL, DEL officials, we really don't take this for granted that we took you away from your own committees and own work, and you came here to deliver us this very important information. We don't take it for granted. Members, we do have a house sitting that just started. They are busy with debates now, so we can join in online and vote correctly. And voting correctly, honorable Christians, in this instance, it does not only end there. It means that the stability of Parliament is important. We must, vote to keep the leadership of Parliament intact. Meaning, let's vote to, deny. Let's deny the motion of no confidence. That doesn't make sense. Thank you very much. The meeting is now adjourned.